Today is the day. This is the first official day of us being firmly settled into our new home, our new tiny life, our narrowboat. Yay! I know just as excited as we are, there are so many people out there, our family, our friends, all the wonderful people we've met through YouTube, Facebook. Everyone's going, when are you going to show us the boat? When are you going to give us a boat tour? So today is the day. Today is the day we officially welcome you to our very own happy ending. I know, right? Yay! All right, now, not to tease, before we actually do the boat tour, we want to go into the stern and sort of catch you up so everyone is brought up to the same level, the same page of our story, and then we will burn through this puppy and show you every nook and cranny and nook.
Well, maybe not all the nooks and crannies. It would scare people.
It is truly our pleasure to welcome you to our new narrowboat, Happy Ending. Built on a 58-foot Tim Tyler hull, Happy Ending is a serial electric narrowboat, meaning its electric engine is either fed power from its massive solar panels or from a rather large generator. Built by Smithwood Narrowboats, it's been a week of moving and organizing all our stuff, and we finally think it's at a place you can join us on board. So, let's head over to the stern for that tour.
Welcome to the stern and the working area of Happy Ending.
Work? Wait, you never said anything about work?
What's going on? So this is the stern, and we want to start here. And I know a lot of people out there want to know what's under the hood, and we want to know this, we want to know that. We're going to come back to that because we are actually moored at Crick Wharf where the boat was built for about another month. So while we calibrate the electronics and the engines, it's a very sophisticated machine. It's like my wife, it's very sophisticated. So we are lucky enough that the person who built this thing is within an arm's reach, and we're going to grab him and he's going to give you the expert walkthrough of what's under the hood, which is very, very exciting. So we started this journey 6 years ago with the idea that we were going to move and retire to the United Kingdom, to England, and become continuous cruisers. And we are going to explore the canals. Now, we are retired here. We live here full time. And we have given ourselves at minimum 10 years to explore the entire network, right?
Well, most of the network. There's some that I'm still a little iffy about whether we'll do.
And we'll come back to that because this boat is built around those iffiness. And then if we are still physically able, because nature has been kind to us, so we look a little younger than we actually are, and we're not sure if we'll still be able to after 10 years, but if we still can, we'll keep going. But if it becomes a challenge to where we just can't take the day-to-day continuous cruising, then we will live on this boat in a marina until we just had enough, basically. And the reason I tell you all that is because this boat was built around that plan.
Yes, one of the reasons that we love Chris is he really listened to us and what our needs were and what our purpose was, and I think he gave it to us in spades. Everything that we needed.
Yeah, he did. He was so he went above and beyond and thought of things that we didn't think of, right?
Yes.
And you'll see that. And then the other thing you need to know as you're going through is, yes, we're 100% moved in. However, we also realize, because this is a long-term plan, we want to get used to living on the boat. So there are some things we haven't done yet because we just want to see what our day-to-day lives look like. So we ask you when you're going through to understand this is not going to be a picture-perfect boat. It is not a show boat by any means, but it is a beautiful boat. And we've gotten it to the point where we think we can definitely live in it.
Yes.
So part of that is this. We both had our things on our want list. Wendy's was to have a big kitchen, which you'll see, and then mine was to have a nice, decent working space around my desk. And then we tried to squeeze the rest of our living into the rest of the boat. And you're going to see that, but understand that as you go through. So do you want to show them your awesome kitchen?
Oh my goodness, I love my kitchen.
Awesome. We'll go on into the
All
kitchen.
right.
We'll follow you in.
Yay! Oh, so welcome to my kitchen. I am in love with my kitchen. So first of all, the kitchen cabinets are just gorgeous. I think we had been in the country for about a week, and Chris called and said, you need to start picking out your finishes. So we definitely had to quickly make some decisions. The cabinets are gorgeous in that they are soft close, which if you are noticing, they are a little bit off kilter right now, but when we first came on, they were 100% perfectly aligned. But as we've moved in and as we've put stuff in and as the ballast has been changing, so Chris is giving us, now that we're pretty much moved in, he's given us about another week or so, and then he's going to come in and readjust these cabinets. But they're absolutely beautiful. I also requested that we didn't have door handles because the number of times we rented and the amount of bruising that I got going through the kitchen. So based on that, he recommended that these were recesses at the top, and so you can pull all your cabinets that way. This first one is, again, because we're liverboard, is a freezer. It is a pull-out freezer. I love it so much. It's already full. The other piece was I really wanted a very long run of counters because I knew that there would be limited space. So some things had to live on the counter where other things we could sort of hide in the cupboards and the drawers. That's what he gave me, and absolutely love it. On this side, I've got a series of drawers. They all have different depths in them, and so because of it, you know, at this point it's holding a lot of the cutlery, some of the spices, that sort of thing. And then this is our this is basically our refrigerator, and Chris gave us a much larger one than you typically would see because he said your liverboard's continuous cruiser, so you need something bigger than your standard typical refrigerator. And he is right. I was so pleasantly surprised when I saw that.
And the nice thing is he built it into the cabinet, so you don't know it's a fridge.
Yes, it's beautiful. Oh my God, these things are so soft. I'm constantly cleaning them because I'm just wiping them down because I'm so so in love with them.
She's touching her shelves.
Yeah. So then Chris also gave us a washer and dryer, and we've actually used it once because he really wanted us to test the power that we use with the solar panels and everything. So we already had more than a week's worth of wash, so we've already run it, washer and dryer. I will tell you, coming from the US, I've had to look up and read every single manual for every appliance because it's slightly different here than what we have in the US. Next is my induction hob. I was going to say stove. I was trying to think of the name that you call it here in the UK. So my induction hob. Luckily, he told me that I was going to have this because you have to make sure that your cookware will actually activate this when you do turn it on. And so it's really anything metal. And the way that you know it will work is your cookware will work is if you take a very strong magnet and throw it on the bottom of your cookware and it sticks, then it tells you that it will actually activate this once you put it on. Because you can turn it on, and if you put on a pan that isn't heavy metal of some sort, then this will never actually become hot. So I have a 2-burner hob, love it. And then this is the oven. It is one of those, it's a Neff, I believe, and it's one of those slide and hides. It's also all electric. Everything on here is electric. But it is its own air fryer too. So it's one of the things I didn't have to worry about as far as, getting a different air fryer appliance. So yeah, that thing's beautiful, beautiful. I love it. Then below here is just under the sink, and so it holds our water freedom. And so because we had water freedom, we did have to get what's called a 3-way tap. So on this side, I had to actually put a note here that this side is the drinkable water. And if you haven't had it, it is more pure than any tap water that you will ever drink. I will tell you both on the US side and on the UK side.
And for those that don't understand, water freedom is a process where you put a hose in the canal and it goes through a series of incredible filters.
A lot of filters.
So you can drink the stuff that comes through the initial filters. They don't recommend it, but you can. But the final stage, which is under the sink, is called pure, and that puts it to the level that it is approved as drinking water in this country, and it does taste really good. What did you just discover during this walkthrough?
I was going to talk about our under gunnel storage, and Laurence was pointing the camera over on this side. I said, no, I don't have any. And then I pulled out this magical drawer. Oh my God, I have another one. I can buy out the grocery store.
Uh-oh.
We went to Costco. I should have bought more.
Yeah. So why don't you talk about the undergunnel storage now you're down there?
So, Chris also built undergunnel storage. So as you can see, I have already packed to the gills some of this. And then I've got another one here, which is also packed. Don't judge us on what we choose to eat, by the way. And then, yes, I have discovered a whole another empty drawer.
So 2 things. First of all, he did the undergunnel in the same material as all the cabinets, which is nice.
And it has the exact same way that you open it is from the top.
And then everything, literally every door in this boat is soft close.
I love it.
Every door, every drawer.
So the other thing is window coverings. We will eventually probably go to proper Roman shades, but when I realized I didn't really know the boat and what it looked like yet, and so to pick the right color, fabric, that sort of design was just too overwhelming. So we ended up going to IKEA and getting these. They're actually pretty inexpensive. Chris was a little bit unsure about it when I explained it to him. So we bought one and sent it to him. And obviously this would be closed, but they work out really well. And it's IKEA, so in a year or two they're probably going to conk out. We'll have to replace it then, and at that point in time we'll probably go to proper shade. But yeah, he was able to install them, and this is metal, so we're able to have metal brackets here. So yeah, it'll close.
Chris ran into his magic workshop and found these amazing magnets, which actually go really nicely with everything else as well.
Yep.
So every one of the blinds stays in place. And as Wendy said, Chris was like, he wasn't too sure about these blinds. But as he started to install them and he saw them pulled in, he goes, these are nice.
So then this is and I'm a little afraid to pull it out. This is my corner cupboard. It is a slide and hide. And sorry for the mess, but as you can see, it holds quite a bit. So super excited about that. You just have to give it a little bit of push to make sure it closes. And then in addition, Chris gave us these wonderful side cupboards as well. And it's a little bit messy, so that's why I don't want to really show it to you. Everything's been shoved in, but nothing's been organized. Let's just put it that way. But again, the amount of storage that he has maximized, I mean, if he wouldn't get offended, I would have given him a big fat kiss. So we decided to go with a breakfast bar for 2 reasons. Number one, in our almost 1,900 square foot house in Austin, Texas, we had a huge counter, and we had a huge dining room table, and 97% of the time we sat at our counter and ate. And so because of that, and the fact that we knew that Laurence wanted a desk, which was going to take up more room, that we decided to go with this, and it has worked out beautifully. We love it. And of course, I love with these countertops too. So yeah, we do have duck hatches on both sides. Chris, they didn't have to, they could be in different spots. They didn't have to be across, but for some reason, I decided it might be prettier if it was actually across from each other. And I knew I wanted one when we were sitting here eating, and also this is where I'll pull out my laptop and do a little bit of work on here as well. So I knew I wanted one here, and so then because I wanted them across from each other, we ended up here. But this ends up perfect, babe, because you know the number of times you and I have just stood here and sat here, and the towpath is on the other side, so we've actually like talked to a lot of people on the towpath through here. So
we're sitting here mid move-in, and ended up talking to Andy, who actually is moored at Crick Marina,
Yeah.
and then a adorable couple who are actually at Yelvertoft Marina. And they were on the other side of the towpath, and we were in the window. Thank heaven, because we stunk. And we're chit-chatting, and we must have chit-chatted for a good hour and a bit. It was such a great, it's very canal lifey.
All right, so we have our radiators here, and one on this side as well. So we had a choice in color, and again, there was so many times where Chris would ask us a decision, would be like, well, what would you recommend? Seeing as we had never built a narrowboat ever in our entire life. So he recommended this, and it worked out perfectly because really the color of the cabinets are really what's called a dusky blue, which means they have gray in them. And so, yeah, he's the one who said, well, the color of your cabinets would complement, and he was 100% right.
So because we're all electric, our heat source is solely the radiators. So they're everywhere, which is awesome.
Good point.
And they really are, with the pretty color, they're more a feature than a working asset within the boat. So.
I think it gives the boat, between all the beautiful woodwork that Chris does by hand, by the way, it gives it really sort of that urban feeling. So I love it. Yeah. All right, so moving into the salon. Is it salon or saloon? I keep asking
we
this.
never know.
Somebody needs to tell me.
This was my hot point for our build, and that was to have a workable space at a desk, because I do a lot of video editing. I like to game. And one of my pastimes when we're not out exploring the canals is actually sitting here, usually in front of my now laptop. So really, we just gave Chris the dimensions of what we wanted with the desk, and he did the rest. He even told us sort of like how big of a monitor realistically we can fit in here. So beautifully built desk. It's probably the prettiest desk I've ever owned. It does have extra storage space here. We're not going to show you that because it is a mess. And I do have to mount a keyboard shelf just underneath the desk. But initially we talked about having a swing arm to do the monitor to come out, but we were really keen on having as much open space in the boat as possible. So I said, I love your idea, Chris, but honestly, when I'm not at the desk, it would be nice that there's nothing blocking the view from where the kitchen all the way down to the next section of the boat. And honestly, we we talk a lot. People have said we're too affectionate on some of our YouTube videos. That's just who we are. So we
like each other.
We do like each other. So we spend a lot of time talking to each other, hanging out with each other, and we didn't want something between us, no matter how minimal you are making against the wall, if I'm on the couch and she's in the kitchen. So we came up with a solution, and this is awesome.
Now to the rest of the living room, we have something that I forgot to talk about. These are made for our duck hatches, and we actually have, when we get to the bedroom, we have another set that have been made. They are unfinished because Chris still has to come back and stain and varnish them. This was a late request after we'd been on board for a little bit, because we could have bought shades like we did for the window, but once we got on, I thought that it would look prettier if we just had these. So they just slot in and out, and they're absolutely very beautiful, and we're so happy that we made that last minute request. Thank you, Chris. All right, so next is our two-seater sofa. It is from Sofa Barn. We did spring for these sprung cushions and everything, and they're really beautiful. And if anyone, which I know a lot of you have done Sofa Barn, there is a storage underneath each of these, which is full. I'm sure anyone who lives on a narrowboat has already filled it. And then we did ask for 2 footstools, which are much bigger in person than when you see them online. And they also have storage as well. But we ended up loving this configuration because if we have people that are here, they actually have seating now, so that we could actually sit and have a talk. So we really appreciate the flexibility of the footstools. So this was a surprise when we came in, is Chris had, again, because he was thinking storage solutions for us, had given this to us. But again, the storage that it gave us is an absolute blessing. And so this is really where we've stored what few books I've allowed Laurence to actually have on board. He was most dismayed when he had to pare down books. It's got some of my cookbooks, a few of our books that were allowed personally, and then of course all of our narrowboat maps and guides are in here. And we still have a little bit of storage at the bottom. Don't worry, that'll get filled up as well. Nothing will remain empty, I guarantee you. And last but certainly not least is our television stand. So one of the things that was really important to me is that, you know, as the boat moves, we are on a moving vessel, I didn't want this to actually fall off. And so because of it, Chris then provided us with a bracket to securely mount it here, so that, and it is raised a bit, which was a wonderful surprise because we could actually do a little bit of storage behind it and under it. So really pleased about this. This was a 40.
It's a 42 inch.
It's a 42. And Laurence said, well, we could have gone marginally bigger. And I was like, could we? Because we've already turned it on, sat on the couch. I think it's big enough. And yes, so there is a wonderful amount of storage down here as well, which again, very pleased with. can't talk storage enough. I don't know if we're going to do one of those counters again on a particular word used over and over again, but storage it is definitely one of them. And speaking of storage, this is one of those choices that you make when you're on a narrowboat. So no, this is not a new decorative item. It is our garbage can. It is, of course, recycle and regular. It is quite the trek from the kitchen. We do acknowledge, but unfortunately it does fit here. And we've just, you know, when you're on a narrowboat, you have give and take. You have to come up with solutions. So I just use sort of a temporary garbage when I'm in there cooking, and then when everything's said and done and you're cleaning up the kitchen, then you come and you transport your garbage and recycle over here. We are going to attempt to find a sort of a pretty cloth to cover this so it's not as visible, but sorry, welcome to narrowboat living. Last but not least is this beautiful decorative wall that Chris gave us. It was a complete surprise. He said, you know, it's just not going to be a plain wall. There's going to be something special on it. And babe, I've been seeing this for about, what, 2 or 3 years because I love looking at like new homes, and I used to watch a lot of home and garden TV and absolutely love it. So when I saw this, I squealed like a little girl. Okay, coming into our bathroom, loo, head. Is this supposed to be called a head when you're on a boat? Anyhow, so we have your typical quadrant shower, and it's beautiful. It is much roomier than we thought, but in all fairness, it is not the largest shower we have ever been on on a narrowboat. But it does well. Laurence has installed some storage for us, and it's working out very well. And then we have our sink with the tap. Chris let me pick this out, and so I wanted the beautiful round bowl, and that's exactly what I got. We obviously have storage under here, which again we're not going to show you because I mean it's full and it's messy, but we did try to organize it as best as possible. We went with the compost toilet, and it has been surprisingly wonderful.
One of the few DIY things that we've had to do is we put in our own toilet holder.
Yes.
Toilet roll holder right there. Did that, very particularly proud of that. We picked that and put it in ourselves, so yay us. And you may notice a glaring omission. There is no mirror there. It hasn't come yet, and it's going to be... Yeah.
It was supposed to come in a certain time. It still hasn't come.
Still hasn't made it. It's going to be from wall to doorway.
Yep. This whole thing will be there.
So, you know, that's a good thing and a bad thing. Some days you don't want to see yourself that much. But and then we do have to... we got assurance from Chris on what space was going to be covered by the mirror. So now we have the opportunity to put in a makeup mirror, which will have an extension arm on it, and we'll... put that on some point before we leave the wharf for our great narrowboat adventures.
And then Chris will also provide in this empty space here, again, we came back and asked for it as an additional item after we moved on. He's going to give us undergunnel storage along this wall as well. And then finally, this is sort of typical what we see in most bathrooms is we've got the storage up here. I was shocked how much is actually fit in here. So we've got a combination of our linens and extra towels and stuff in here. And then down here we have more storage as well. And so it is pretty full, but again, very surprised of how much we've been able to put in there. And then if we actually need to access anything, there's a panel here that we can use to access.
You want to talk about your kitty?
Oh, and then one of the things that did make it all the way from Austin is our toilet paper holder. It is a little kitty, And it reminds us of both of our cats, but the one who passed recently, and we had the longest Fafino, so we had to find space for this.
And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's watched our Narrowboat journey. It's a long video, and we appreciate taking time out there to watch it, but it basically follows our journey from the first moment we decided we wanted to do this to what it took for us to move from Austin, Texas back to England, design a boat, get all our stuff. And during that, I'm going to try to talk about this without crying, we lost our last fur baby. And it was like 6 months before we were due to leave. We had to say goodbye to him. It was a tough scene to put into the story, but so many people have told us their stories about their fur babies. And it's just been amazing reading all those stories from people. And just the empathy and it's so nice to read those and hear about people's own challenges with saying goodbye to their fur babies, whether they be dogs or cats, rabbits, whatever. But so thank you to everyone who's done that, because those comments are like gold, and it's great to see, have the empathy and hear other people's stories. All right, back to the serious stuff. What's that thing?
The radiator. Oh, sorry. I was getting emotional as well. So yes, once again, radiator. We do have a section here where you can hang something, and then yes, we do want to get a bar here to hang more towels, because right now we're looking at sort of hooks to go over here, but you know, it gets a little. You only have a finite space for hooks because obviously the door needs to open. But yeah, that's one of the additions we'll probably be adding.
But we love our bathroom, don't we? We really, really do love this bathroom.
We do. It's a beautiful bathroom. Again, it'll be nice to actually see ourselves. But then again, maybe not. We've been going over a week now, yeah, without seeing. In fact, you only asked me yesterday if we had a mirror. I said, babe, I'm a girl. Of course I have a mirror. Okay, so this is the bedroom. It's the one and only bedroom on board, and we chose to have an enclosed bow. So very happy about this. Also discovered that this is the only room that I can actually do any sort of exercise, semi-yoga stuff in here, because it has the most room. So Chris has blessed us with a huge amount of storage, and I don't really want to open this up because anyone who's lived on a narrowboat knows how messy and how much stuff is shoved in here. So forgive us if we don't actually show the inside, but it is a double wardrobe as it opens. And we have installed sensor lights at the top so we can actually see inside when it's dark. And it does have a hanging rod to hang clothes. Then down below we have pretty much open storage, but at the very back is all of the Water Freedom filters that have to be changed on a 3, 6, 1 year, 18-month cadence situation. And so we were very careful to ask both Chris, our boat builder, and Water Freedom, you know, how careful we had to be as we were shoving stuff back here. But just, you know, every time we change a filter, when I say we, I mean Laurence, then he gets to pull all the contents out in order to do that. But again, life on a narrowboat. So then below our bed is our water tank, but Chris was also able to give us some storage under here. It does slide from back to front, and we have managed to fit a series of plastic boxes under there. So right now it is housing our winter clothes and various other things there. We did end up with this small space here, and as you know, on a narrow boat, you have to maximize. So we carefully measured and found some boxes and other things that we had to store that we could use here. So this is actually perfect because we could actually place that large standing fan here if we wanted to when it's hot. And also it's just fairly easy storage to actually access. So pretty pleased that we found this little cubby hole in order to utilize as well. Okay, so as you can see, we have 2 portholes here, and we store our bungs along the side right here. Right now we have a full bed. This can go up to, we believe, a UK king, but because we could utilize sort of the sides for storage and stuff, we wanted to see what it was like with the smaller bed. If we decide down the road that we want a bigger one, then we can change our mind, you know, when we're ready to switch out the mattress. But for now, it works for us, and because we had rented so much and then did the 2-month liveaboard, we knew that we could actually sleep on a full. Chris gave us a sort of a headboard up there, a shelf with sockets that allow us to plug in our devices. He's also given us plugs for to turn off the lights up there, as well as over here on the side. So when we enter, we can turn lights on, and then when we go to bed, we can turn lights off. Just like the duck hatches, he has built us covers that we can insert in so we have some privacy. The other thing that he still needs to finish is giving us bedside lights. So that piece still needs to be finished as well.
The sconces haven't come in yet.
Yeah.
So funny story about enclosed bow. When we were describing what we wanted to do with our boat, and how much space we wanted to maximize, and we explained to Chris that in none of the rentals have we ever really utilized the open bow. Mm-hmm. And Chris said, and this was 4 years ago, well, you can have an enclosed bow. And we had never heard of an enclosed bow, and you didn't see that many on the network. And so we went ahead and said, yeah, let's do the enclosed bow. It wasn't immediate, but soon every boat we saw at the Crick Boat Show had an enclosed bow. And it's just like, oh, we're going to have one of those. So we were sort of ahead of the curve, and not intentionally, but I'm sure it's one of those things where all the boat builders who talk amongst themselves realize that an enclosed bow is a great way to utilize what little space you have on a narrowboat. So as promised, we have the man himself, the man who dreamed this up, designed it, and built it, Chris, who owns Smithwood Narrowboats. And he is the expert who's going to walk us through what he put in the narrowboat and why he did.
Okay, right, let's start inside the engine bay. So first and foremost, we've got this little thing here. For any old historic boaters, they're going to hate this. This is the stern thruster. We've got one in the bow and one in stern, which, as we did our little video the other week of controlling the boat, gives you full control of the boat. They're not cheap, unfortunately, but you know, these ones here, these are the brushless, the Vetus, Bow Pros. In my opinion, they are worth every penny. Even if I had a diesel boat and it was my, you know, I had it on myself, I still have these. They are brilliant things. They give you so much more manoeuvrability, especially as people find out when you're reversing. It just gives you full control in reverse as well as going forward. Next up, under this, my feet here, we've got the Beta Marine electric motor. Okay, it's a 14 kVA. It's belt driven, so a bit older technology rather than the brushless. But the good thing about them is they're a bit more reliable. They can swing a bigger prop, and you don't get the loss of power that you get on some systems. We try and put in our boats what we find works, tested, tried, and for us, the Beta system. It's not the only great one out there, you know, but it's a very reliable system, and you know, any support that you need, it's there instantly. We've had, out of all the systems we've had 2 issues, and what we can say is their customer service second to none. So from our point of view as boat builders, It's all about less risk, and for this system's very, very good. We've then got a big genset down here. It's encapsulated, so you can't see the engine, but it's fully encapsulated. This is 11 kVA. Now we normally put 8 kVA generators in. This is the first time we've put one in this big. And if I'm honest, it's because, you know, obviously as we're building boats, people worry about how much power we can do. I don't think that was the case here, because we assured them the 8 kVA was big enough. I think it's the fact that we've got an American customer. In America, they have to be bigger. Bigger's better. You know, we put a 2-litre engine in a car, they have to put a 4-litre engine in a car. Same principle here with the genset. They're never going to use the amount of power it goes, but it does give you complete control. The one good thing, if you were on a river or a tidal river living all the time, I'd probably suggest a slightly bigger generator anyway, because when you're going forward, to go against the tide, you have to use more voltage. On the 8 kVA ones, it will run, if you have a full set of batteries and you went at full power, you would eventually run out of power. With this 11 kVA, it's going to give you as much power going back in as what you're using. So it is key. For 99% of people, the 11 kVA is unnecessary. Unless you're going to, like say, live and always be on tidal rivers, most people will never ever use or have, need the benefit. But what I will say is, it is a good bit of kit to have, have that extra bit. It's a little bit more uneconomical when you're going along, because obviously it uses a little bit more power. But the good thing about the gen sets are they do adjust their power. So although it's not going to be quite as economical as an 8 kVA, because if it doesn't need that much power and it pulls it down, it will run at a slower tick over and therefore save some money.
Anything else about this system that you found works well with the electric boats and what you built in Happy Ending?
I mean, so we stick to the same stuff now. We always use Victron. We've tried a few of the systems out there. We find the Victron, it seamlessly links to the batteries, to the gen sets. They all talk to each other. It's for narrowboats, and this is where seagoing people will have a go at me, because they have different opinions on what the best systems are. But for narrowboats, we find that the Victron equipment, it just does everything that a narrowboat needs to do. It gives the customers the information they need, how much power they're drawing in. There's apps you can download which gives you pre-recorded data. So when you've got the servo screens, it only gives you the data from that point. Where when you go into the apps, it gives you historic data without having to have the extra technology of having extra computers that you need to plug in. Which we've had to do when we've tried other systems.
So the only other thing is we have 2 kilowatts of solar on the roof.
Yeah.
And initially when we started talking about building the boat, we were doing the stick-on because they look cool and sexy. Yeah. But you said at some point, if you go with the flat ones, you can get a little bit more power and they're more efficient.
Yeah. So we've used lots of flat ones. The flat ones, you can walk on them. That they are good. There's different versions out there, and I can't be clearer with this. You get what you pay for with these flat ones. We've used some panels, 500 watt panels. They're nearly £1,000 a panel, and if you do 3 kilowatts, you can get cheaper versions at half the price, a quarter of the price. But when you get a hot day, the biggest misconception is people don't realise hot is not a solar panel's friend. Sun is a solar panel's friend. Hot, especially these stick-on ones, they shut down. The more expensive ones, they don't seem to shut down fully. They just reduce a much reduced rate, so they don't get damage to the panel, so they don't overheat. But the good thing about the ones that are sort of raised from the roofs, they don't get so affected by the hot weather. They're smaller, so you can get more of them on your roof, and it gives you more power. On an electric boat, all we can say on the matter is, although you've got a generator here, so people say they're not truly electric, the more sun you've got, the more sort of off-grid you can be. These customers have been on board just over a week now, and they've not had to plug in the generator. We've just been doing some tests. They've not actually had to have it on, and we're always above 80% because we are putting more power in from the solar than what they're using. So from that point of view, all I can say on an electric boat, solar, you want as much solar as you can. So as much as I think that the stick-on ones they look better, and yes, you can jump on and off the roof, the reality is, if you can cope with some raised ones, you will have much quieter sailing for longer hours of the day.
All right, let's take a quick look outside our boat. So as mentioned earlier, it is 58 feet. Tim Tyler hull. It cuts through the water like a dream. It's probably the best one we've ever steered over our vast experience of 3 rentals. Enclosed bow, which means that we have a little bit more room for the bedroom, but there's still a ton of room in here, which is, this bow actually has the front, I know there's a bow thruster, there's also the water freedom hose, which just goes over into the water. The funny thing about the water freedom hose, fun tip, they tell you try not to have the intake too close to the top and not to have the intake too close to the bottom, because you want to try to avoid as much surface stuff, anything floating on the surface of the water, and you obviously don't want to be dragging up the bottom of the canal. So it's really interesting. You sort of have to, it's like fishing for water. And then of course this is an emergency exit for us to get out. We can still use it. It's just if you want to get in and out of it, you have to lay plastic on the bed to be able to use it as an ongoing access point. Now let's go back and look at some other things that actually make this our forever home. So Chris talked about the 2 kilowatts of solar. It's up here on the top. Now you may notice it's actually flat. We don't adjust it at all. It is what it is. I know people are going to write in and say you should be able to adjust it to catch the most sun you possibly can, but we do want a pretty low maintenance boat as much as we can because we are technically retired. This is a game changer. So of course one of the things that we really wanted was to be connected to the internet at all times. So we opted for the Starlink. It's a little bit of an expensive choice, but we've been using it since we did our long-term rental back in January. So pretty much have lived off of Starlink right up until we moved onto the boat in July, and it offers consistent internet service, both upload and download. It's permanently mounted to the boat, which makes it really nice not to have to take out and pack up every night, and it's on a stand where we can adjust it and align the Starlink to wherever we happen to moor. And then of course we got the flat Caldwell windows, which are really cool. And then what I never thought was going to be a big deal, I thought it was just a utility, you have to have it, turned into one of my favorite parts of the boat. It's right here. So of course we knew we wanted a cratch cover, but we didn't know it would look this good. A really great job by AJ Canopies. It's the Sunbrella Plus. It's the latest, greatest fabric, and it's supposed to be more resistant to water and UV and retain its color. It just continued the whole color theme of the boat between the black highlights against the green. It just really makes the boat pop, and the boat makes the canopy pop. Looks really nice. It's actually a shame you can't cruise with this up more often, especially in the summer with the heat that we've been having, but certainly just it looks so good. And it's actually very complicated to take down and put up at first. For a couple reasons. You don't know how to do it, and the second reason is they're fitted extra tight because there's going to be a little bit of stretching as they age, so that makes it a little bit of a challenge. But really Wendy and I have gotten it down to like a timed event at the Olympics, to where we can put that puppy up and down. The other thing which I thought was interesting, and thank you to everyone at AJ Canopies, awesome people. Initially when we started talking about the canopy, in my head, I had the whole thing would fold back. Every time I watched anyone on YouTube, I would see the cratch cover behind them. And so when they told us it would be folding forward across your hatch, I was like, well, that's not really what I'm used to. We do like to put our cameras up there. Will we have room? And Kathy was like, trust me, you want it folded over the front, because if you have it folded over the back, if you go through a bridge or if you go through a tunnel, the least thing that can happen will be you'll scrape up the canvas of the canopy if you get too close to one of the walls. Worst case is you're going to bend the tubing that holds the frame, or that is the frame. And then once we put it forward a couple of times, and now we know how to fold it down so it's really nice and flat, it actually looks rather smart. So I'm a convert. Consider me a convert. I went from the rear to the front. And then the best part, AJ were nice enough to also make our cushions that go inside, and between the cushions and the canopy, the back actually looks sexier than probably any other part of our boat. Yeah, so it really did finish off the boat. And then of course at the rear, the stern, we have the stern thruster and the controls, which, by the way, completely different world with an electric boat, trying to know exactly the speed you're supposed to be going, because you get a feel for it with diesel, and really with electric you're sort of trying to hit that fine spot with amps to where you're optimally pulling off the batteries for your cruising so you get the most time. It's pretty interesting right now because it's not something you can hear and sort of not something you can feel, but we're getting there. So yeah, this is it. And then of course the painting, the sign writing that Charlotte did, everybody absolutely loves. So it wasn't just us being biased. We're going to finish this walkthrough in our beautiful, spacious stern with the beautiful crash cover and the exceedingly nice cushions. So in the whole scheme of things, with hindsight being 2020, how do you think we did on the design of this boat?
By some miracle, I think we did fabulous. We definitely had a lot of help really combing through Facebook posts of people's designs, watching every single walkthrough of a boat on YouTube, and then really bombarding poor Chris with every one of our wishes and desires. He really took all of that and gave what we could have based upon the design of the boat and the size of the boat. I think he really gave us everything that we wanted.
I agree. I think the whole design phase, so much of it was just being in a certain place at a certain time and meeting a certain person. Like the highlights that we have for the boat, the black trim, we saw that on another boat when we were going to visit Chris to look at ours. And we went, that looks nice. The actual color, we had one particular green in mind, and Chris was like, over the telephone, I think you want this other green. And he was right, because everyone loves the green. And you know, it's a decision that you make for one reason, but you end up keeping it for another. We wanted doors on the side of our stern. And it was initial for our fur baby because we were concerned about him just jumping off. Well, if you've watched our Narrowboat Journey video, you'll see, or you'll remember that our cat passed before we could bring him over here. But I still love the doors. And as a matter of fact, when we were going across the Langlauflin, you kept saying, I wish I had my doors.
Well, I felt like there'd be less likely chance of me falling to my death if I actually had stern doors.
So the doors just finished the look of the boat, in my opinion. So it was just stuff like that which brought us to, considering we had never built a narrowboat before, helped us along the design phase and knowing what we wanted in the boat. So, so thank you to everyone who gave their advice along the way. No matter how small or how much, it all helped us get to this perfect boat that we feel that we can live in for the next 10 or 15 years. So before we go, if you haven't subscribed already, if you want to, if you like what you've seen so far, then go ahead and click subscribe. We'd love to have you along on all our narrowboat adventures. If you want other people to see this video, if we did the job that you wanted, if we showed you all the stuff you were asking for, give it a like. Let YouTube know that it should recommend it to other people. And then the final thing is, if you never ever want to miss one of our videos, just hit the bell. Absolutely free. And what will happen is YouTube will remind you as soon as you log on to the app to say, hey, you know that couple that you sort of like most of the time? They've released another video. That's us, by the way, just in case you forget. So it's been great having you along, and we've saved a spot for you right here on this cushion here for the very next narrowboat adventure, so you can just sit down. I know people watch us with a glass of wine. We don't judge. We may join.
Well, definitely we'll be joining.
So we got a place for you metaphorically right here on the boat as we do our YouTube adventures, and they're gonna be amazing.
Well, just our little short test cruises that Chris has been sending us out on have been amazing.
They have.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the next one.